The FY3 year for doctors spells freedom and flexibility in what was quite possibly the most exciting year in my medical career. You've been through the torment of med school, the antisocial hours of foundation training, and you are finally on the other side. For those of you that are new to UK medical training, here's a quick recap. Step 1, get into med school. An arduous process that involves playing instruments that you'll never pick up again in your life, eating dry tomato pasta so that you can say you've done DOV Gold, and shadowing a doctor doing work experience whilst not knowing your elbow from your... well, this is a PG channel. Then med school, 5 years of exams, of partying, of the smell of dissection, making you weirdly hungry. Communication skills, team working, and more communication skills and team working. And then you're on the other side, a fully fledged doctor. Then medical training goes like this, 2 years of foundation training, where you rotate through different specialties, getting a brief taste for about 4 months of a few different things in medicine, in surgery, in psychiatry, in general practice. You get a flavour of the actual life of a doctor. And you get to see what you might want to do when you become an adult doctor, unless you decide to do children's health, in which case that joke doesn't work. And after your 2 years of general foundation training, in which you're doing nights, you're doing weekends, you're doing on-call shifts, during which I missed one of my friends' weddings, I missed stag do's, I missed my own mother's birthday. Traditionally, after that point, you go into specialty training to become a consultant or a general practitioner. But, and here is the but, doctors are now taking a break at this point. After those 2 years, they're deciding, actually, I don't want to go straight into specialty training. I think I want to take a break. Yes, guys. Doctors taking a break. Can you believe it? Call the police. They signed up for this, so they shouldn't be allowed to. Read the comments. This year, or foundation year 3, gives doctors more flexibility. It gives them a chance to try different things, both in life and in medicine. Ultimately, you are in charge, and you know how much the GMC likes autonomy. This video is all about how to plan your foundation year 3 or FY3 year. Step 1 is to fully understand what your goals are. So what do you want to achieve for this year and also in life? Are your goals to buy a house? Do you want to go traveling? Do you want to get a taste of something in medicine that's a little bit different that you haven't experienced before because you think that might be something you want to do to get an idea if you want to specialize in it? Or do you want to go on that 6-month trip that grueling rota didn't allow you to do before? And if so, you're going to need to save and plan for that. What else do you want to do? Are you planning on getting married? Are you planning on having children? The year is yours. Now, close your eyes and visualize these goals, and we can make them come true together. Not really, it's not that kind of video. Now, step 2 is working out how much money you need to achieve these goals. Now, this is going to be hugely variable, and money is a bit of a taboo topic in medicine, but we need to understand how much money things cost and how much money you get to work out how much you need to work to be able to achieve these goals. And I'm about to give you the straight facts about it. Let me give you the example of myself. I felt like I'd gone through medical training without having a break. I didn't take a gap year to travel. Although I did a few holidays during my holidays, I didn't feel like I'd really explored, and that's something I really wanted to do. So I wanted to take a big gap of 6+ months to go traveling and to do that backpacker thing. Now, to do this, I was budgeting around £50 a day for spending and for doing things. And that, for that length of trip, roughly is about £10,000, which sounds like a lot of money. And then to actually fly out to do the trip, I was gonna need about £3,000 worth of flights. And then I wanted a few £1,000s for emergencies. And by emergencies, I mean, I didn't wanna be in a place and be like, I really wanna do this thing, but I can't afford to do it. And also, if something happened, for example, a pandemic, at least I had money to fly home, which actually did happen and well blew this budget. Now, your goals may be completely different. You may be saving for a particular house deposit. You may be saving for a wedding. You may just be saving for the sake of saving. But it's useful to have that figure in mind to know how much money you aim to save and over what period of time. Step 3 is finding a job. As an FY3 doctor, you don't have a fixed contract, meaning you are not employed directly by the trust unless you want to be. Now, we've always been spoon-fed, especially through FY1 and FY2. You finish med school, everyone does their applications together, you get your job on a plate, you get paid automatically, you move on to the next year. Now, you have to do things for yourself a little bit more, and you actually need to go out and find your own job. In general, you either work as a locum doctor or a junior clinical fellow. So junior clinical fellow is like a non-training SHO. So they're like the equivalent of an FY2 or CT1 level doctor who is not rising through the ranks every single year. You're sort of just working at that level. A locum doctor is technically someone who is filling gaps, but there are pretty much always gaps to be filled. Now, what's the difference between the two? A locum doctor is self-employed, either through the hospital trust directly or through an agency, and I'll come on to this in a second. A JCF is working through the trust and has a fixed term contract. So for example, you could be a JCF for a year and have a year in acute medicine in a hospital. So why might you want to do one of these things rather than the other? Now, an international medical graduate, so an IMG, might want to be a JCF because they need to be sponsored for a visa. And if you're a locum doctor, though you are regularly getting work, you don't technically have that contract in place, so it is more difficult to work fully as a locum doctor that way. So they might want to work as a junior clinical fellow. The other circumstance is if you want to go into something that has a very niche specialty or something that you know is very competitive that may not have locum jobs to get some experience in it, you may then choose to do a junior clinical fellow role in that. So for example, if you're doing plastic surgery of a particular part of the body and you want to get experience in that, that might be a post that's available that because there's not many of them, there may not be locum roles in that area. Junior clinical fellows are generally lower effort to get. You know the trust already, you tend to have worked there before, one email, and pretty much they will offer anyone the job. But in most other circumstances, in my opinion, it does not make sense to be a junior clinical fellow over a locum doctor because you are doing pretty much the same job, except you're being paid way less and have way less flexibility. So a locum doctor is getting a higher pay and is also able to control their rota a lot more and to pick and choose when they want shifts and to also take holidays when they want to. Now a JCF is paid at pretty much the same rate as an FY2 and a locum doctor is paid almost double this on most occasions. Obviously that varies in what area in the country you are, what job you are, how sought after that is, how competitive that is. But you have your flexibility to pick and choose your own timetable, to say I want to work during the week and not at the weekend, or I want to work in the evening so I can spend time with my children in the daytime. And you can get long-term posts. So for example, I had a long-term post where I was working 9 to 5 every single day, Monday to Friday. When I worked during my FY3 year, I worked with an agency. Now there are loads of agencies out there, but I worked with an agency called Holt Doctors, who are kindly sponsoring this video. I signed up to 3 agencies, but I ended up only actually working with Holt Doctors because they found the job that I wanted to work in, and I just found them quite supportive and kind through that process. I was assigned a recruitment consultant who was basically my point of contact if I wanted absolutely anything work-wise. They find you work, they deal with the hospital, they generally keep you informed with everything going on from demand to pay rates to timesheet cutoff. Your recruitment consultant will also deal with other things. For example, my induction wasn't right, my smart card didn't work, I didn't have logins for some systems, there isn't enough staff on the ward today, can I have these days off? They are really your sort of go-to to help with anything. I think it's nice to have that point of contact, and I think especially with an agency, it's about the feel, because when you think about it, agencies get paid depending on the amount of work that you do. If you're working more, the agency gets paid more, so it's in their interest to make you work more. And I found that with some agencies, you're constantly getting bombarded and an email saying, will you do this shift? Will you do this shift? And I don't want to go to Lincoln to do a stroke shift. I've never done stroke before in my life. Whereas I know when I worked with Holt Doctors, it was very much more about, well, what are you looking for and how can we help you get that? In general, I would say speak to people that have worked with that agency before and get them to tell you what it's like, because that is the best person who's going to tell you whether they've had a good or bad experience. Holt Doctors felt very family orientated and supportive. I've put links in the video description if you want to check out that. It's a referral link as well, so if you do click that and end up working for them, I will get something back in return. Plus, if you register with them in May 2023, they are offering a welcome reward of £100 paid out when you start working for them for your FY3 year. There's more information on this on their website. Now let's get back to the video. So just to recap, I found the difference between working as a junior clinical fellow, so like a trust grade doctor, and a locum doctor was 1, that the locum doctor rates were higher, and 2, you had someone who was accountable for you. So if you had a problem, I could speak to that person and they would sort that out for me. When I worked, I had a long-term locum role for 4 months where I worked 9 to 5 every single day. I wasn't really interested in picking up A&E shifts. I was more looking for the community that you get on a ward, so I wanted the 9 to 5 kind of work. And so that's a decision you've got to make, no matter how you're working, is what department do you want to work in, and do you want to work somewhere regularly, because you can do that as either doctor. I personally think that on a ward you develop more of a community. I enjoy working with other people, and you get to do that if you're seeing people every day compared to going in to do random shifts. And this also means that you get more training opportunities as well, I think. So if you're on a ward every day seeing the same registrars and consultants and working with them, it means that when things come up, they will say, well, do you want to do this? For example, I did respiratory and I got the opportunity to do chest drains and things like that. Now the question is, how do you get work during your FY3 year if you decide, yes, I want to be a locum? The key is to sign up early. And I think the kind of time you should be signing up is around April, May, the year you plan on starting working. So if you're finishing your FY2 in August this year, then you should be trying to sign up in April, May, June. Because it takes so long to do the compliance things, you need to give them loads of documents, you need to do another DBS, you need to do this and that. And it's not that difficult, but the process does take some time. And once you're registered with an agency, for example, you can tell them what kind of work you're looking for, and they can go out and start looking for that. And it's the people that are looking for that work that are going to get those best jobs early. If you sign up really late, you're going to have the last pick, and the early bird eats the worm. Something like that. The early doctor eats the job. Yeah. So the options again, just to recap: locum doctor through an agency like Holt Doctors, locum doctor directly through the trust, or junior clinical fellow. The other thing to consider is, if you're going to be a junior clinical fellow on a full-time rota, would it be better to just go straight into training? Because at least you're doing a similar job, but you are progressing through your career. Because as a junior clinical fellow, you're sort of in the same position you were at the end of the year. Whereas at least if you're in training, you'll be doing the same thing, but progressing through the rankings. Something to consider. Now, how do you get a junior clinical fellow job? Well, the best thing is to literally email rota teams. So pick a department that you want to work in. Let's say you want to work in neurosurgery. If you already work in that hospital, email the HR or the rota teams for that department and say, I'm looking for a job, what is available? If there's nothing there, or you are planning on going somewhere else, find out if someone works there and has the email address for them. If they don't, you can literally just pick up the phone and call the switchboard and ask for the rota team or for the HR team, and they'll be able to point you in the right direction. For any of these things, you will need a medical CV as well. They're pretty easy to write. If you want a video on medical CVs and what mine looks like, if I've got one up to date, I'll do one that's pretty easy to do, or ask me in the comments and I'll link it somewhere. Step number 4, step 3 was a very long step. Step number 4 is work out how much money you need to do the things you want to do. So this is pretty self-explanatory, but we've worked out for this traveling trip, or for this wedding, or for this whatever, you need £15,000. We know that if you work as a locum doctor, you could be earning between £40 and £45 per hour, let's say an average through an agency. So if you want to save £15,000 and you're earning that much per hour, you'll need to work around 350 hours. So a day of working is 7.5 hours. I'm reading this because I did the maths at some point. So to earn this, you would need to work almost 47 days. Now, a working week for me is Monday to Friday because I like the weekends off. And so this is around 9.3 weeks. So the minimum you need to work would be around 2.5 months to earn this amount of money. But bear in mind, you're going to have other costs like your living costs and your actually expenses and the air that you need to breathe during that time as well. So let's say you'd need to work around 4 months to be able to save that amount of money. So if you finish your FY2 year in August, you could feasibly work for 4 months until Christmas and have saved that amount of money to have to start you for that fresh new year. Step number 5, and step 5 is my favorite step, not only because it is the last step, but also because it is the most fun. And this one is called Map Out Your Year. This is where you get to plan all of your exciting things. You now know how many hours, weeks, and months you need to work to be able to achieve your goals. And you get to pull out your calendar and start this planning. So start drawing in the dates that you'll be working. For example, what shifts are you working? When are you working? When are you taking breaks? And it's important to remember when you're working during this time that life is not all about working to save. You need to actually take breaks during that time as well. So you might want to factor in a week here or a week there to try and take a bit of time off. And then you can draw in all the exciting things that you were doing. So for me, it was 6 months of traveling. I got to draw in my August to December of solid work, and then my January till COVID of traveling. The real advantage of doing the FY3 year is the flexibility, and it's flexibility you've never had in your life as a doctor up to that point. You can take that week off to go to your friend's wedding. You can go and stay with your parents for a bit. You can go and visit elderly relatives. If you want to, of course, otherwise just tell them that you're on call. That is the beauty of the FY3 life. Get that house, discover that exciting part of medicine, and ring those wedding bells. Plan that trip of your lifetime, because the time is now. Once again, big thank you to Holt Doctors for supporting the channel and helping me make this video. Genuinely so kind and supportive. Links are in the video description. If you've got any questions about any of this, drop me an email or a comment, and I'll see you in the next one.